Okay, and I am going to mute everyone. Okay, and Steffi, you're muted now.
I'm unmuted now.
Okay, good. All right, so welcome everybody to Getting Cities and Counties to Adopt a Climate Action Plan. I want to introduce Steffi Rausch. I'm Ellen Van Velser, by the way. I should introduce myself. I serve as the state coordinator for North Carolina, and I was chair of a panel on which Steffi served at our Southeast Regional Conference back in March, where she did this exact presentation, and it really was very well received. So we asked her to come and join us tonight and do it again for anybody in the Southeast who is interested in working in this area. I think all over our region, this is a really important project for chapters to take on. So I know we're going to be working on it in North Carolina, and I hope it just spreads throughout the Southeast. So Steffi is currently the group leader of the Western North Carolina chapter of CCL, and I will just let you take it away, Steffi.
Okay, great. I'm going to start sharing my desktop.
Oh, let me also say, if you have questions as we go along, we'd like for you to put those in the chat, and we will have time at the end to get to your questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you might have some as we go and I might cover it, right? So thank you guys for coming today. I'm so excited to get more of this great news out. It seems to be gaining momentum. So we just heard from one of the cities we've approached from the beginning, just hired their first sustainability staff person. And so that was a year in the making and they did it. So I'm going to first start out with why it's important to do this work. It's valuable to CCL in many ways. First of all, it helps get our volunteers involved in something meaningful and achievable. We're all looking for things to do now, various things. And this is something that really does speak to a lot of people because they can see something happening from it. The other reason is that it encourages cities and counties to get on board, with climate action because they can save money. It's not about doing it for the climate, y'all. For some people, they just don't care. But they tend to care when they realize the savings they can get. And then they can reinvest those savings in other things and save taxpayer money. The next one is it forms a good starting relationship from which to build upon, where you can gain their trust and show them that you have something valuable that will help them as legislators or leaders. And if they adopt a plan, they will realize that much more is needed to help them meet their goals, meaning that it opens up the door to having conversations about a carbon price because subsidies isn't going to do it for us. That funding is limited. And we'll go over that and why they need to act now in order to get the subsidies, but it is limited. And that's our taxpayer dollars paying for that. So we really do need a carbon price in addition to this over the long haul. And lastly, it sends a signal of support to our federal legislators, especially our conservative ones, that cities are taking action and need to see federal legislators take action too. So the recent city, Hendersonville, North Carolina, is the one that just hired their first sustainability staffer to start putting one together. And our own legislator in the US House is actually from there. So that's why we targeted Hendersonville first. So that's a good example of hopefully we will share with him that Hendersonville has embraced it and many other cities too. So I'm going to share with you how you make this happen, right? First of all, there is, I hope you all know what a bit.ly link is. It's basically a short URL that if you copy and paste this into your browser, it will bring up a folder of resources that I have created for you in addition to this PowerPoint. So it'll have my handout 1 and 2 that I'm going to go over with you. Those are the handouts that you would print out to bring into a meeting with your legislator. It has an email, a pre-drafted email request to meet with your city or county officials. It also has this IRA guide that you would recommend the legislators read, and an IRA handout on tax credits that households could save and the steps to take, etc. So this is the bit.ly link that you should use. I'm going to put it in the chat for everybody. There you go. And then get back to our main page here. So how to make it happen. First, you need to find a constituent or resident who can request a meeting with their city councilman. Have them send the pre-written email in the resources folder that I just showed you. And then in the meeting, start off by sharing a personal story or concern of impacts to your town and ask them what they're doing about it. Then ask them what they're doing to lower their energy costs and if they have heard of a climate or resiliency or sustainability action plan. And depending on who you're talking to, you might want to use the word sustainability action plan or resiliency versus climate. It just depends on who you're talking to, as we well know, and how that would enable them to save money. So you're going to really, message this saving money thing. The handout 1 is going to first go over the why, the saving money part, the benefits that they would get from having an action plan, which I'm going to go over in a little bit. You're then going to share handout 2, which shows them how they do it, the steps to take. And it has 3 basic steps, but with sub actions or sub steps in between that I've learned through working with the city of Asheville through my job. And then you're going to recommend that you're going to try and follow up with them to see, are they actually going to do this? And if they are, you're going to hopefully ask them to join ICLEI. There's an overview PDF that I'll share with you for ICLEI. But ICLEI is basically a group that they can join for very little money, only $1,200 for the whole year. Small towns can afford that. And that group can help them in certain ways by connecting them with other smaller towns in their area. It can give them a measuring tool that's really important to know where they are today and how much they need to reduce by in order to meet their goals and if they're obtaining those goals. So just to get the actual ClearPath tool alone is reason enough to pay $1,200, but they also consult them. And then ask them if they will adopt a plan or if they need to see more support from the community in order to move forward. And if they do need to see more support, then, you need to start getting more people involved at making comments at city council. And what I have found is that it really doesn't matter too much about the adults who come to comment. Apparently, it's the youth that matters. So we had tried with Hendersonville for a long time with various adults making comments, 5 people. I mean, that's a lot actually for comments per council meeting a couple times in a row, and nothing budged until the youth group came. So I did a presentation since I've joined Rotary to the Interact Club, which is a part of Rotary. And they wanted to do something environmental. And so they, welcomed the presentation. I gave them pointers on how to address councilmen, not yelling, being very respectful, coming up with positive statements of encouragement, those kinds of things. And of course, they came out. We were hoping for 5 or 6, but we ended up with only 3, but also the teacher and myself, and the mayor immediately, which they never respond for comments, actually responded to the students and thanked them for coming out. And then they got covered in the paper. So that was really exciting. And since then, they actually said they had joined ICLEI first thing. And then with the budget coming up, they put it in the budget to hire a staffer, and they recently just hired them. So I was going to show you that just this article just came out on March 24th. So as you can see, the city's first sustainability manager wants to promote balanced growth. So it really is truly amazing to see that actually come into fruition. All right, so moving along, going over handout 1, the benefits, right? You need to show them that they're going to save money. So you're going to give them examples. And since we're here in North Carolina, Chapel Hill had one of the best town managers that gave us a lot of great talking points and said that they have saved over $80,000 per year after making lighting, heating, cooling equipment, and control upgrades to just 3 town locations: the community center, the aquatic center, and town hall. The town expects to save another $20,000 per year through their LED retrofit project at the town's library that was made possible by a Duke Energy Small Business Energy Saver program. So there are lots of great programs that they can also get, savings from. Asheville used the revenue they generated from replacing street and building lighting with LEDs to fund their first sustainability staff position. And now they're up to 2 people that are in that position. Police departments in Kentucky are saving $7,000 per year per vehicle in maintenance and gas costs by moving to electric vehicles, and even paying back the city by plugging into their own utility that the mayor there helped set up. And so they're buying these police vehicles one by one as they save their money each year. There's a wonderful news clip about this that I have linked in the handout. If you want to share it, I highly recommend you watch it. It's very short and sweet, but it talks to the policemen and the mayor. And then Chile, a country, is saving $70,000 per year per bus by converting diesel buses to electric. The one-time upfront costs are double. These are big, large vehicles, but the life cycle costs are ongoing. So those are basically the main benefits that you're going to go over in that one handout. And this really is, if you want to add to it, feel free, but it really does help sell this. Then you're going to get into handout 2, how they're going to do it, right? So you're going to give them resources. And it's important to remember that your plans must have SMART goals that are implementable, measurable, and planned out, right? You have to have actual things that you can meet. And that's why there has to be an action plan. Sure enough, they can go ahead and do certain things, and they probably have done certain things. But if they don't have a plan in place to know, are they going to meet their goals in time, they won't get the benefits of some of the things I'm going to share here today. So first of all, they need the steps. The main big time steps are that they would reduce the carbon footprint of municipal and county buildings and transportation fleets. So they would lead by example. So they can't control households at this point. They're just doing the things that they can do, the entities that they own, right? Then they support, educate, and engage with the community, meaning residents and businesses, and encouraging them in how they can reduce their carbon footprints. like I do now with my job through the Blue Horizons Project, which is in charge of educating the public and how we're going to do that. And lastly, they're going to address climate resilience and adaptation policies for the community, meaning if they're impacted by flooding, drought, fire, if they need to upgrade their infrastructure, it's a great time to do it now. If they're dealing with climate refugees, like we know people are moving from Florida up north, those kinds of things. So the time is now for a reason. First of all, the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, is offering 2 additional grants called the Formula and Competitive Grants. So in other words, they offer 3 grants. The first grant, I guess, is offered to anyone, as far as local governments I'm talking. But the 2 others, the Formula and Competitive ones, only can go to local governments who have an action plan in place. Although all cities will receive what they call the automatic grants, that first one. So for example, electric school bus grants are available, and there is funding for commercial and heavy duty vehicles, meaning fire trucks, which can cost upwards of like $1 million. So getting this funding is key for people to change. There's this wonderful resource here, the Guide for Local Governments on Climate Action and the IRA. And I specifically state go to page 14 because, let me get to it. This is the guide. And if you go to page 14, I'll try to make this bigger so you can actually see it. You'll see that it goes through these particular types of funding. Yeah, here they are right here. So you have air quality and greenhouse gas reduction. It talks about how much is going to the local governments and where it goes. There's the housing and commercial buildings. And then there's the resilience part. There's clean vehicles part. So the clean heavy duty vehicles, there's $1 billion. And there's a workforce development program as well. So that it addresses climate justice as well there. I know that I did a search on this for formula and competitive grants to understand which ones were those. So you can do a search for like formula, for example, and try to find those formula grants. So in the description, it labels this as a formula grant. Homeowners, managing savings, I can't read that. Yeah, homes program. So you can find which ones are that by doing a search. So this is a wonderful guide that you will hand off to them. And they even, I believe, have webinars on this, etc. Okay, let me get back to here. Okay, so this is just a screenshot of that. And then you're going to share with them who has adopted these action plans. This link right here will share with you all the cities, that have adopted nationwide, about 600 of them, and 10 cities in North Carolina. So I've listed out the 10 on here, and going to the link, I'll show you what it looks like. So they're basically grouping them with a status of C, D, or I for committed, meaning they've committed to, they have a resolution for a climate action plan. D, meaning they're developing the climate action plan, and I, meaning they're implementing it. So if you want to look for whatever states, I'd simply do a search of North Carolina and it shows 10 results. And you can go through and find a city that matches your population. So if you're in a smaller town, like Durham is super huge, and Greensboro, but Hillsborough is only 7,000. That's, I believe, the lowest I've seen for North Carolina. But there are some in like Alaska for 5,000, et cetera. And it has a link to these climate action plans if they have one. So obviously Hillsborough is just committed, so they don't have their plan yet, but others do. So you can look at those plans and they're pretty much all similar. They're all going over the same thing. So it really would behoove them to look at other action plans and really draft one based on those. I don't think they necessarily have to hire, a large firm to do this for them. So it does depend. There's many different ways to do this. So let me go through this last bit here and then go over a bit more in the handouts. So here's the steps to take for the legislators. So I did basically use the same steps that were in that website of one, they need to commit. They need to write a resolution or adopt a comprehensive plan policy to commit to reducing their carbon footprint. And some people argue, well, you got to have a plan to have a goal. And then some other people are like, well, you got to have a goal to have a plan, I tend to think you do have to have a goal to know where you need to go. And then you come up with the plans. And that's typically how it does work. So some cities also commit to a certain time frame. For example, the IPCC says we need to reduce our emissions in half, so 50% by 2030 and 100% by 2050. That's a typical goal that we share with them. And they usually don't even know that that is the normal timeline by the IPCC. So usually sharing that with them is like, oh, it's an aha moment. Like, we really do have to get going. And then they get into step 2 where they have to start developing. So they can do it many different ways. They could hire a consultant. They could hire a staff member, like a sustainability staff, or set up a task force or committee, sustainability committee, that involves the community too, with residents on that committee to help them create goals, draft, and possibly calculate savings from a climate action plan. One thing is, like, you can get involved in that process. That's fine, but I don't want to get involved in that process, and I don't expect y'all to. It's more like you're handing this to them and letting them take with it, right? But sometimes they have asked us, would you like to be on the board? Or would you be interested in being hired? Actually, they've asked one of our people who did consider it. And so then an RFP can be issued to identify the best support for this step. There are, like I said, 600 cities or counties that have climate action plans you can look at. And then it gives about 12 recommendations that they can do. And then the last one is the implement and promote. So this is that handout too that I was talking about. Let's see, that is right here. So here's the steps to take, the develop, and then it gives the resources for ICLEI, as well as some other grants like this block grant that just came about. Okay, so what they can or cannot do, right? As far as the legislators, they can electrify their transportation, meaning police, fire, or buses. They can electrify their buildings, make them more energy efficient, get solar or geothermal, etc. They can update their infrastructure, their EV charging stations. They can update building and land use codes to make build more green, like we learned at our conference recently. They can get government subsidies from the IRA. And in fact, what the IRA did, which was a problem before, was that local governments could not get certain subsidies or tax credits. But the IRA actually made it a lot easier so that they can now get them directly. They don't have to use a separate entity to get these tax credits. So it actually simplified the paperwork and allowed them to get these subsidies directly. And they can improve their water and waste. Who doesn't want clean water? And the less waste you have, the more money you save. Actually, that is a big savings as well. You wouldn't think it, but waste does cost money. And then, of course, they can educate citizens to change, but they cannot force them. So this is the ICLEI handout. Like I said, that's only $1,200 a year for them to join this local government for sustainability. And in this handout that I have in the resources, I'm focusing on the Clear Path, because this is a data tool that allows them to inventory, forecast, plan, and monitor climate data with this industry-leading emissions management tool. So they can actually measure. So a lot of the problems that some of these small towns say is like, well, how do we measure our carbon footprint? Well, this is what you give them to measure that, and that this will inspire them to join. And if they join, what they said was that at ICLEI, I had a 15-minute consultation with them, and they said, if we are able to get 10 towns on board in this state of North Carolina, of which 3 have already joined, I believe it was 3, that they would put together a learning cohort. So this learn and do cohorts part is where they basically group train many different cities to come together and network with each other on what they're doing. So when you get enough cities or counties on board, we need to promote and share this with our federal legislators. So this is how it moves from the bottom to the top. You know, as we all know, we focus more on federal policy here, but sometimes it takes working it from the bottom. And I couldn't think of a better way to get through to our conservative legislators than to show that at the local level, not only are these small liberal towns getting on board, but the conservative small towns too. Because I live in Asheville and they don't care what Asheville does. But if I've gotten Hendersonville already on board, which is known to be conservative, if we can get other towns on board that are known to be conservative, and we're only focusing on them, we're not even focusing on Asheville anymore, is that hopefully this will send a message that to the federal legislators that they are moving and we need them to act too. So again, here's the bit.ly link. You just basically copy and paste that, put it into your browser. It will bring up the resources. And at this point in time, I guess that's all. I'm ready for questions.
Okay, there's a question in the chat about whether there's a minimum population of cities or towns to make them available for some of these funds.
Right. Okay. So there are lots of grants. I can't bring this up. I don't know why. Okay. So does that make them available for these? Is there a minimum population of cities or towns? So there are certain grants that are meant for, I believe, like the larger entities like metropolitan areas, but no, there's no minimum population as far as other grants. I mean, it depends on the grant, really. But are you talking about the IRA? Maybe that's what you're talking about.
That was Vernon. Vernon, do you want to add to your question?
Yeah, that was from the IRA. Our little town is about 700 people, and the towns around my area are that size or a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. And I didn't know if they
No,
could.
there's no minimum. Yeah, as long as they're incorporated as a city and they're, you know, a legit city incorporated, then they can get this. Yeah. And in fact, y'all, if you have a sustainability staff person, by the way, these grants that are coming out, they will be notified typically through the state. Sometimes it comes through the state. So it's not like you have to keep up to date on these grants. I don't expect myself to learn all these grants because it's a lot to know. But the staff person is meant to get up to date on that and will be notified. So that's something to know, but there is no minimum population, no.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
So Matt asks, after you present to the legislators, I think this is locally in the town, what are the big points of pushback that you usually hear from them? And then how do you respond to these points of pushback?
Yeah, most of them that we've met with, and we've met with about 5 now, are all very receptive. The only one we weren't able to really get through to, that we never were really able to even just get a meeting with, was Franklin. And their main pushback was that they're too small of a town and cannot afford it budget-wise. And we wrote a long email back to explain that you can't afford not to do it. And basically that's when my person from Franklin had done research and contacted the town managers of various other towns that had done it to find out the savings. And that's when we came out with the benefits handout. So, if you want to do more research on your own to say, this city next door actually did it and they saved this much, you have to come up with those talking points and basically flip the script and say, how can you afford not to do it? That's the question you should be asking. And really, it's getting the youth to speak up at the town council. If they're not listening, that's the next biggest thing.
Okay, Steffi, here's a request for your email address. Betty says, I have a group in Atlanta, the South Face Institute, that I'm working with, who'd probably be interested in seeing this presentation.
Yeah.
They were there at the conference, right? South Face?
Oh, right. Yeah. South Face was. Yeah. I mean, if they want another presentation, feel free to let me know. I'd be happy.
No, this is Betty. That's not necessary. I didn't know they were at the conference. That they are wanting to do a program like this up in North Georgia, starting with the cities and counties in North Georgia. So I'll just get with them and tell them I saw your presentation.
Great. And I am going to send out the recording to everybody who registered. So you'll have that as a resource too.
Yeah. Feel free to share it with them. Oh, it looks like Bill has a question.
Yeah, just a quick question. How do you avoid sort of becoming the doing person for the towns? What would you suggest? I mean, it sounds like what we should be doing is coaching them to do these things, not being the go-getter doing things person. Is that correct?
Yeah, you were not here to create a climate action plan for them. Don't be mistaken. Yeah, we are not going to do the work for them. No, that's their job. We are just handing off the information and trying to make a point that they could save money. That's all we're doing.
All right, sounds good.
And I want to say my mom is here. So Mom, she invited a bunch of people from Highland Farms that are trying to make this happen in Black Mountain. So if she wants to say hello, Mom, feel free.
I have a question. I don't know if you've run into this yet, Steffi, but we do have a lot of small towns in North Carolina where we may not have a member of our chapter who lives in that town. So is it worth trying anyway, or do you really need a person who's a resident?
You do need a constituent. You can't go in there without a constituent. They won't listen to you. So, you can go along with a constituent. That's what I do. I mean, I've gone an hour or two away to get there, but you definitely need to. So what we've been happening to do is in those towns we want to target, we actually start figuring out some tabling events to go to and then get some names to call and talk to them about what we're trying to do and see if anyone shows interest. All you need is one.
Yeah.
I have one person in every town that we're targeting, and they are doing the work, and I just, coach them on the next thing they should do. Or I find out, is there an interact club with the students through Rotary? Is there a sustainability club? We really focus on the youth first. And then if there's any low-lying fruits that they know, they try to get a presentation with them, etc.
And this is a good time of year for that because we have all the Earth Day tabling opportunities.
Right. Somebody wrote asking, yes, they are trying to make it happen in Black Mountain. We've already met somewhat with the mayor and others. In fact, I met with the conservative mayor prior to Mayor Sobal, and he was actually for it and said, let's put it in the budget for next year, but then he didn't get reelected. So that was surprising. I didn't expect it. I met him through Rotary, and so we're hoping that Mayor Sobal will take the reins and move forward there.
Patricia, you have your hand up?
Oh, Mom, that's Mom. Mom, you got to unmute. She does.
Okay.
There you
Did
go.
I make it?
Yes, you're there, Mom.
Well, this has been exciting because we wanted to go after the city council in Black Mountain, which was known to be a very conservative group. And after about 2 years of going to city council meetings, finally the mayor happened to be at a Rotary meeting. And I sat there and watched Harris turn from a non-supporter to, he did a 180 and he got it. It was like the light bulb just went on, which was so exciting. And when he left that Rotary meeting that night, he said, I am going to support an action plan for Black Mountain. And that was just a couple of weeks before the election, and he was turned out of office. But luckily we got Mike Sobal, who wanted an energy action plan years ago. So we are so excited because we worked so hard to get Black Mountain on board. And we're now planning a really nice presentation for the board members. And I think that will be the turning point. And I think that Black Mountain is finally going to do an energy action plan and capture the lion's share of all that grant money that's going to flow to cities. So we are excited. We want to thank you, daughter, for all that you've done to help us. So we're excited, and we're going to move forward and capture a conservative town.
Good for you. Yeah. Lisa, do you want to ask your question? I'm feeling like we might need a little more detail about what you're asking.
If I remember from seeing this before at the conference, there were some deadlines for certain things for some of the grants to be available on doing these action plans.
Yeah, so the grants are, the deadlines are coming up quick. I mean, and what we've been told by ICLEI is that these towns really need to get an action plan this year. That's what they said to us. I'm thinking maybe next year too, but he literally stipulated the funding isn't going to last. So this is really, the time really is now. All these grants are coming along slowly but surely. So I think there might be another year, or so that we'll have, but the deadlines are all different for all the different grants. Like and it's so much to know, y'all. I can't follow all the grants, and I don't want to spend my time figuring out the grants. That's not our job. It's their job. So you just have to really push the fact that, the timelines are coming. They need to get going on this. And some of them do budgets around April. So the budgets are where they decide if they can hire a staff person. So getting it on the budget is kind of a step that's involved. So if you can get in touch with them now, that would be the time. Are Rotary clubs supportive of action and supportive dealing? So I joined the Black Mountain Rotary Club, y'all. I don't even live in Black Mountain. I live in Leicester, and I joined Black Mountain because my mom lives there and she and I joined together. And that's because I wanted to get in touch with the mayor. And when you join, you are allowed to give a presentation to your club. So all you have to do is ask, say, I'm a new member, but I want to focus on climate. That's why I'm joining. They're welcoming new members if you're upfront about what you want to do. And what I heard and what I said to him was that if I'm a new member, I could give a presentation. Would you welcome that? And they said yes. And I didn't get much. I thought I would get a lot more pushback, and I didn't. So you just have to learn how to, speak a certain language to them, of course, have a good presentation prepared, use certain words, focus on the conservative parts. And I think you can make small headway. I've gotten them involved in weatherizing low-income homes, and they love doing that. There's about 4 active members that do that now on a monthly basis in Black Mountain for their neighbors. So that's a small part of what we do. And then the other part was just trying to reach out to more businessmen and the mayor there. Yeah, not everywhere, right? But some places.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Ellen and
Yeah.
Steffi, I live in a town of about 20,000 people in North Carolina, and we're right outside a major metropolitan area. And about 2 years ago, we went to the town and we said, we'd like to know what you're doing about resiliency. And much to our amazement, they were happy to advertise, the steps they were taking. We thought they were gonna drag their feet, but they were really proud of the things that they were doing. We didn't have anything like the IRA to offer them at the time, but about a month ago, we met with 2 of our town council members, and I had found a book on the IRA, and I went through and I just pulled out the pages of grants that were available to municipalities, and I gave it to them. And I guess, I expected them to already know about this, but they were totally blown away. So don't think that these folks are following this because, they have a lot to do, and you're potentially bringing them, you are bringing them really, really valuable information. So you're doing them a favor.
I have to say, Deborah, you touch on a really important point that I forgot to bring up. You're right. Almost every single legislator we met with, they already were doing things. Some of them had already replaced their LED lighting, street lighting, or building lighting. Some of them were looking at buying electric police vehicles. Some of them were already working on these things, but they didn't know. A lot of them have said to me, what is a climate action plan? And I'm like, what? Like, I just couldn't, I was blown away that they didn't know what an action plan was and what the value of that was. When you explain it to them and help them understand that they're saving money by enacting this plan, to actually have a plan, that they can get more money by having a plan than not having a plan, it just makes sense.
Other questions or comments? Patricia, you're muted.
That better?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I met with some people this afternoon on the Sustainability Committee, and they wanted to know what the 10 cities who've already signed on what those cities were. So I'd like for Steffi to go over that. The other thing that I really want to stress is this is the year that cities need to get their action plans. If they don't have that plan this year, then they are going to lose out on the lion's share of.
Sharing with everybody. And here is the 10 cities, Mom, is here on this slide, but it's also at this link. If they just do a search at that link for North Carolina, they will find the 10 towns just by searching for North Carolina. And then they can link to the actual action plans. Yeah, I think you might have joined us late and maybe missed out on that part, but we definitely, anyone can look at what the climate action plans are, and there are 10 listed here.
And do you just go to the CCL website to get the handouts for tonight?
No, I gave a bit.ly link, Mom. I'll give it to you later.
Okay, great. Thanks
And
so much.
actually, I think I put it in, I'll put it back in the chat again.
Yeah, it's in the chat right at the top.
So here it is again. Okay.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
Can you hear me? Derek
Yes,
Lewis?
yes.
I'm not sure if it's particularly appropriate, but I started looking into solar panels for our house and then discovered that in actual fact, the first thing you should do is to insulate the house and do the insulation, because your calculations could be badly wrong if you haven't done the insulation first. I've just finished 1 month of post insulation with moderate gains, but the weather's been very mild. So I'm hoping that now, as the weather changes, I'll see a bigger change here. But it's certainly, from everything I can see here, if you want to do solar panels, which is a major issue that we all should do, the first thing you need to do is to insulate the house.
Great. Yeah, Derek. And I'd like to share one other thing within those resources that I gave you that people can get tax credits for. This is something I created for our Blue Horizons project that educates the public in Asheville of how to get on board. And if you share with the people during tabling events or whatever, how much money they can get back, this is our most popular handout. People don't know. I keep copies in my own car and give them to people because I might have a friend who says, well, I'm ready to buy another vehicle. And I'm like, oh my God, you can get like 7,500 back from buying an electric vehicle. Or someone says that they want to get an air conditioner, and I explain the importance of a mini split or an electric induction stove. So you can get 50 to 100% back based on your income level. So if you're low income, you can get some cases 100% back. If you're middle income, 50%. So feel free to share that handout. That is in the resources as well.
Steffi, if I could just butt in here, looking at your list there on weatherization, on insulation, you had 30% up to $1,200. Now, does that mean if you spend more than $1,200 on insulation, you only claim $1,200? Or does it mean you can get $1,200 of credit, tax credit?
Yeah, they have limits, like a max limit of how much you can get back. So, and I think sometimes it's 14,000 across all projects. So I don't really know how it all works. I can't get into the specifics of that, but it's something you should definitely ask about as you buy these things. Yeah. We're still learning how it's all being implemented. So I see basic weatherization. That's insulation, right? Max of 1,200 per year per year.
Okay.
So Steffi, should one focus on county plans over city plans? Is there a rationale for that?
Well, typically, yeah, it depends. Like, it depends on who you feel is the low-lying fruit, right? I know in city of Asheville and Buncombe County, they did it almost at the same time, but other places we've been, they're like, oh, there's no way you'll get the county on board. But if you get all the cities on board within that county, you might get the county on board. So I think you gotta strategize with, you know, the legislators that you're speaking to. You know, pick the low-lying fruits, the ones you know, ask them what they know. They will share what their thoughts are on various things and whether they think it's viable, or maybe you should go, they'll tell you should go for the city first, and then maybe the county will come on board. So, all right. Where is the list of counties and cities who have done the plan? That was that link I gave you guys already. I'll give you that link again through the chat, but it is it's in the handouts, this link, and it's in my presentation. It's at the zeroenergyproject.com. All cities with climate action plans.
And Lisa, will you say something about the two links that you put in the chat?
Yeah, I was trying to find some information and, you know, Googled and found that the IRA does have frequently asked question sheets on the energy efficiency stuff, and a separate one on on electric cars. And then each of those pages has multiple links and stuff too. So if you're trying to figure out if you planning your taxes for next year, you can go on there and look already.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. That's great. Bill has his hand up again.
Yeah, I just wanted to reemphasize, I think, what you were saying, Steffi. It's probably better to start at the local level where you are actually a visible constituent to the elected officials rather than at the county level. Certainly, I can't speak for North Carolina, but I could speak for the state of Florida, where I had some success at the city level, but not at the county level, because you just don't have as much influence as you do at the city level. So I think, as you were saying, I just want to re-emphasize, try and stay local, get something done locally. When you have 5 cities in your county, then the 5 cities can go to the county.
Yes, thank you so much, Bill. And Amos, the one who is in charge at Hendersonville, you want to speak up, please?
Okay, let me unmute. If the counties and cities adopt these plans and they start buying electric vehicles and putting solar panels up and that sort of thing, they're not, you know, they would not get a tax credit, but are there direct grants to them? Like if there's a 30% tax credit for solar panels for individuals, and I think there's a grant program for nonprofits. But do the cities and counties, can they qualify for these rebates on the purchases they make?
Yeah, I do believe they can. Like, that's the whole point of the IRA, was to get this, to take out this barrier that was in place somehow before. I don't really know what that barrier was, but for some reason cities couldn't get direct tax credits before. They had to go through a secondary entity that would get the loan or get the tax credit, and then would like buy the panels for them and then sell them to the city. But now they can get them directly. That's what I understand to be true. But they're also going to get these grants on top of that because they have larger purchases, or they're trying to deal with more climate justice or workforce development stuff. So, or have to put infrastructure in place. So those grants are more for like the large scale stuff, but their buildings, as far as getting solar tax credits, they can get the same ones we do.
Yeah, and the other thing I just found out yesterday that's disturbing with respect to the solar panel installations, the North Carolina Utilities Commission apparently just adopted a new rule that Duke Power wanted that makes the net metering for people that install solar panels much less financially attractive. And
Yeah.
I don't understand why they did that. It seems really stupid, but I think if you can get your panels installed before July 1st, you still go under the old program. But after that, you'll be under the new program, and it takes a lot longer for the payback period to, for you to pay, to earn back what you would be paying for the solar panels, because the net metering resets every month rather than once a year.
Yeah, that's a real problem. I don't know what can be done about that. They're definitely not incentivizing people to buy solar. But
Stupid.
yeah, it is what it is. And another important thing is like, bring up the fact that energy costs are going up. If these towns think they can continue on this path of just using normal fossil fuels and see their energy bills go up, where are they going to get the money for it? They've got to be thinking about this long term, and you've got to help them get there.
Right.
But yeah, good points there, Amos. Yeah.
Well, we're just about out of time. Any last questions or comments?
Just a big thank you.
Thank you, Steffi. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you,
thank
Amos,
you,
for
Steffi.
helping too. And everybody, good luck. I wish you the best of luck. I'm sure this will end up worthwhile. And if you do make progress, please let us know, Ellen knows, so she can share with the groups. Okay.
Absolutely.
We're gonna get Black Mountain, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Good for you.
Go
All right.
for it.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Night, everyone. Thank you.